The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show, tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show, you can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 427. Mr. Somich.
Huzzah! Huzzah! What's that? That's a back-to-back huzzah, just like the back-to-back league championships we're going to take down now, baby.
Hell yeah! I love the faith here. If you missed it, came off of Blinkers Off. It started an hour ago, but check out, if you're not already subscribed, check out Blinkers Off. Aaron and I were on, and we did the draft for the Racing Dudes Triple Crown Fantasy League that Mike and I won last year, and it was fun. I did a little introduction video welcoming everybody to the start of the league, so go check that out yet if you haven't. And then we also did some previews for Oaklawn, and that was great because the last thing Mike wants to do is talk about a track that doesn't have turf racing, which literally leaves us with just Gulfstream, and that's okay.
I like me some Gulfstream, man. We were razor thin close to hitting a monster today over at Gulfstream. It did well Wednesday. It's a bettable track if you know the trends, and we're going to be talking about those because we are going long on the turf, short on the synth, long on the synth, and we got a dirt race. So we're covering everything here from Gulfstream Park.
Oh, no, there is no dirt.
Oh,
it's only
no
turf
dirt.
and synth.
Right. We got 3 turf and 2 synth. This is like, yeah.
It's like the Gulfstream looked at everybody else and was like, Fairgrounds has no turf, Aqueduct has no turf, Los Al has no turf, Oaklawn has no turf. Let's just throw all the turf and synth here at it, and it's going to be great. There's a lot of great racing. There's 2 legs which you and I agree on, including we agree on the same single. I don't actually know if that's happened before on the show, at least not in a very long time. And then we just kind of go Gulfstream with the rest of the legs there.
Yeah, big fields too, which means it's gonna be really easy to hit, and it's no problem. Got this one in the bag.
As Michael says here, no better not to play Tampa. Tampa does also have a turf course. We've tried Tampa and maybe gone 1 for 4 at Tampa before on this show, so we don't touch Tampa.
The stakes days at Tampa I find playable, but True. Man, it is tough when it's not a stakes day because it's Gulfstream Park with worse horses that are less consistent. And it's difficult for me to play. It's one of those tracks I'll stay away from unless there's a good reason, aka a carryover or a big day. Yeah,
and you really have a great point. The stakes days, that's when you see horses come from out of town and show up and actually, they have form at other places that can kind of sometimes come to Tampa. But hey, I guess not everybody's a big fan. I know a couple people not big fans of Gulfstream. It can be frustrating. And this is the start of, it's not quite the championship meet. We're almost there, but basically the start of it. We're all optimistic right now. Come back in a couple of months to see if we're still happy about Gulfstream or not. But Mike, we got a long show. We got a lot of horses we disagree on, so it's probably going to take a while to get through. Gulfstream Park, late pick 5 on Saturday, December 10th. Let's get into it. Riders up.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show, tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show, you can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
That was definitely not the right button to push, but we rolled with it.
Too many shows already.
First leg of late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park, Saturday, December 10th, race 6. We're on the turf for race 6, and this is 10 maiden 2-year-olds, including 2 making their career debut, 5 more making their grass debut. And I want to stick on that for a second, Mike. Gulfstream Park shut down the turf course over the summer to rebuild it. It's getting rave reviews right now, so I'm very excited to talk about this, but we're not quite sure how the trends are going to play because it is a different course in a good way. Where'd you go on top?
Yeah, it is. Look, Gulfstream Park we called it a DERF course in some cases last year before they did this renovation. Heavily speed favoring, especially the maiden special weight races. Wanted to be inside on the first turn specifically. Really tough if you're not saving ground there. So far, it has played similar to that. If you're throwing up at sub 23, you're in trouble up front. But if you're throwing up between that 23 and 24 range, you can put up a 47 to 48 half. You've got a good shot at least sustaining the top 3 down to the lane. So my handicapping on this turf course right now, if there's not a ton of speed, you want the horse up front. And if there is, and you don't think it's going to be too fast, you still want to lean toward horses that are forwardly placed. However, has been fair. You have seen horses come from off the pace, especially if they're going sub 23 in that opening quarter. I agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see how some of these synthetic horses, because you saw maiden special weights in that 40K range. Now all those horses that were running in those on the synthetic are going to be going 2 turns or 1 turn on the grass. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates over, specifically in those synthetic races. 2 turns synthetic, you want to be coming from off the pace. 1 turn, you want to be on the lead. So use that in your handicapping when we are moving from synthetic over to turf. One of my favorite angles earlier, prior to the new turf course, was horses on synthetic who showed speed and quit, switching over to the turf as lone speed or one of 2 speeds, because they generally would hold on significantly better once you headed over to that turf course. With that in mind, I'm going to kick it off here with the 2-horse. Spinning Musician is my top pick, 8-1 on the morning line. This horse is coming out of a 5.5 furlong synthetic turf sprint. Showed some pace, was bumped early at the break, ended up fading out afterward. Ran in a pretty good race. The winner won by 4 3/4. This is a horse that I think wants the turf, that Sweezy wanted to get 1 and 2 before heading over to the turf. A horse that I know is going to be forwardly placed. If we go 23 flat and we're breaking out of the 2 post here, going to be forwardly placed on that first turn, may even be in the lead. Miguel Vasquez, sneaky good jockey down there at Gulfstream. We don't have the full complement of jockeys in this race, although they are down there now. You see Saez here, but not yet the Ortiz brothers. I think Vasquez gets a good break here, may get a lone lead here at 8-1. I think it's awfully dangerous up front, especially for Hard Spun, who's better going 2 turns here. So I'm going to put the 2-horse Spinning Musician on top.
This is the last horse off my ticket right now. My ticket's pretty it's pretty low. It's $48. If you add this in, it ends up being $72. You bring up a great point about, I thought the horse was, it was a decent debut. It kind of looked like it was bet, basically 14-1, like it needed a race or 2 to get going, but it should improve. You got to like the inside draw here. Didn't end up using my top pick. You didn't use either, so that's fine. The number 9 Hardy Choice at 6-1. For Brian Lynch, Julian Leperoux. Now, this is a horse at Keeneland during the fall meet leading up to the Breeders' Cup, tried the turf and tried going 2 turns for the first time and had the lead, was pushing it, and then just completely quit out. But it was a much, much tougher spot, I thought. The horse that ended up winning, Worthington, came back a couple of weeks ago, crushed a turf route by 2.5 lengths on the Stars of Tomorrow 2 night, got an 82 buyer. So it looks like a definite turf stakes horse to look out for at the championship meet come January at Gulfstream Park. All 4 siblings that Hardy Choice have that made it to the track won. 2 of them won at age 2. 1 of them won on turf. So good things to like. I also really love that Palm Meadows work, 2 back, 59-4, going 5 furlongs. So clearly, I think turf, even though we debuted on the dirt, turf is where this horse is meant to be. Julian Leperoux, how many times have we seen this horse or seen this guy, if he gets a lone lead on a turf route, just end up walking the dog? Now, that's a big if, because there are several horses in here who may go. The 2 could stretch out and do that. The 1 has an early time form rating of 100. The 6 has an early time form rating of 100, adds blinkers. So lots of potential for, a wicked pace duel. I only went 2 deep, and that leads to the number 4 that you also use. So I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, to me, a really logical horse in here. This is actually my 4th horse out of this race. If you want to cheapen my ticket, which is a little more expensive, this is the horse that I would cut from here, although I would prefer to cut another horse in the 3rd leg. We'll get to that one eventually here too. Look, Southern Dream makes a ton of sense. Had a pretty good race last time out. I think you got to note, was breaking out of the 12 post, going 1 mile and 70 yards on synthetic. That is tough to do. I mean, you're going to be hung wide both turns. Southern Dream was hung 4 wide on the first turn, 3 wide on the second turn, and was clearly second best in that spot. Ended up finishing second, but lost by 8 lengths. Was almost 3 lengths clear of the 3rd place finisher. This is a horse that's shown the ability to come from off the pace. We don't have many in here that have shown that ability. So if you do have a pace duel that heats up, then the 4 Southern Dream makes a ton of sense in this spot. I considered your 9 Hardly Choice. The key for me was breaking out of that 1 hole at Keeneland last time and breaking out of the 9 now this time.
Yep.
Gonna feel some pressure from the inside, and if you want to clear for Hardy Choice, you're going to have to go fast early. I'm not sure that's going to be great going down the lane. One of those situations where I think if the 9 clears, we're seeing that sub 23 opening quarter, like I mentioned, and that's not the lead that you want. I mean, even in the last race today, we saw sub 23 47, and the horse was not able to do anything in the stretch. So worried about that 9 post for Hardy Choice, but Southern Dream is the logical closer here, and we do have enough speed that it could come into play.
And before you move on to your other horses here, one note: the horse that won, that beat Southern Dream by 8 lengths, Bluebird's Over. It's a really talented Saffie Joseph horse who, from the debut, went to Woodbine and won the Grade 3 Grey Cup, 73 buyer in that spot. So a good horse to lose by 8 lengths to. And that horse was, by the way, was way ahead of Southern Dream early and just kept running. So the fact that he was 8 lengths behind, he didn't really have a chance to catch him.
No, I actually thought that was a good race. I'm going to be using a horse out of that race, the 8-horse Be Well, who just got an awful trip in that spot. This is one where the horse kind of broke a little bit out, was breaking out of the 6th post that day, ended up 4 wide, kind of made that middle move that I like to see, and then faded off toward the end. We're upgrading from Camacho Jr. to Tyler Gaffleone. This is a second out for Sisterson by English Channel. I think this horse has a pretty decent shot in this spot. I like the fact that we're switching over to turf. I think that's going to be a plus here. I think that the distance shouldn't be any issue here going a mile again. It's another one that I think can come from a little bit off the pace and be very, very dangerous. This is one where you saw immediately after that race, we started working out on the turf as well. I think the plan was the turf all along for this horse, and that you're going to see an upgrade from moving over to that turf. And you also get second off. So you should see improvement just general in that second start. And I like the 8-1 price here as well for Be Well. Other horse I'm going to use here, I'm going to go 4 deep. I'm going to use the Pletcher Saez horse, first-time starter, OK Boomer. Makes a ton of sense in this spot. We're not quite sure what we got, but we know there's no world beater in here. So it won't take that much of an effort for a first-time starter to be able to get the job done. So I'm going to end up going with the 2, 4, 7, and 8 to kick things off.
I wanted to play against the 7 because it's such a short price, 5-2, when I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. If the price was a little bit better, I'd consider. But it isn't interesting to note that over the summer, Pletcher had this horse at Saratoga, did work a couple times on the turf training track, and then we just didn't. Something went wrong, needed to get time off. We haven't had any turf work since then, but it's Todd Pletcher. You would want to trust him in a spot like this. The 8 was really interesting to me as well. There's a lot of horses we'll talk about, throughout the day that are on this card that were running on synthetic and really were meant for turf, but there just wasn't turf racing available. And the 8 was with Sisterson's crew in California, just wasn't ready to get to the races in time, but there's plenty of turf racing that could have been out there. Comes back in the last 3 works, all on the turf at Palm Meadows training course. The 8 is the one that I'm the most worried about from this group that I didn't use, but I think the 8 is a very interesting one. You could go a lot of different spots here. We agreed on the 4 because, like I said, it just makes the most sense out of all of these.
Yeah, the bomb that I looked at but didn't use was the 5 Harrington, first out for a barn that can get the job done. Was successful over in Europe, came over here to the U.S. You get Barrios up, kind of an unknown here in my mind. I couldn't fit it on the ticket, but I kind of like that 20-1 price if you want to go deeper here.
We've, by the way, breaking news, we've already gotten a trade offer for our 3rd overall draft pick in the fantasy draft. So, boy, I love it. Everybody's so excited about the fantasy league. It's a good time. Hector Barrios had a really nice winner today at Gulfstream with an import for Amador Sanchez that came in from South America and looked really good, and had been facing another really good import that is probably headed to the Pegasus. So watch out what happens there. It's pretty interesting. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. I can look up the email, but do you remember who I'm talking about? Super Corinto. That's who it is.
That was the 5 horse in the Mish race. Yeah, the mile 16th race.
And then the other one is O'Connor. So O'Connor and Super Corinto. Watch out for those two the rest of this meet. All right, Mike, let's move on. Second leg of the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, December 10th. We're on the synthetic 5 furlong sprint, 7 fillies and mares, 3 and up, 20K claiming tags. It's interesting because if you're 3, there are no restrictions for you to show up in this race. But if you're 4 or older, you have to either be a non-winner of Free Lifetime or a non-winner of a race since June 10th of this year. And that is how we somehow both landed on the same single on the rail, a 3-year-old with no restrictions who is 6 for 11. 6 for 11 over this course, going 5 and 5.5. A clear standout. What's the price we get on her?
4 to 5, maybe somewhere in there. It depends how much money the 5-horse Mercury Head takes. Who, spoiler, I had no interest in. Look, I said it in the preview. 1 turn, you want to be on the lead or near it, and that's exactly what Golden Isle is going to be. And you look through the rest of this field, there is no pressure. If you have a horse who is just loose on the synthetic, going 1 turn at Gulfstream, it is extremely hard to beat that horse, especially a horse that likes to win on this course. This is one of those spots where I could get creative here with Adios Babe, the 6, if I wanted to try and go too deep in this spot. But to me, I think Golden Isle just takes this field gate to wire, and the horse would have to not fire, essentially, in my mind, to be able to not get the job done. 9 to 5 is going to look more like 4 to 5 or 3 to 5, but you kind of have to make a decision. Do you take the stand, or do you just kind of say, hey, look, this is the best horse. I'm not willing to try and let this horse beat me, and I'm not going to go too deep. And that's the decision I came up with here. Golden Isle is clearly the best horse in this spot and has a pace advantage. I'll swallow the chalk here and use this as a single.
A couple of things that you didn't mention, but I love every point you made. You could try and poke holes in, like, well, she keeps changing barns. Well, she keeps winning at the same thing. Like, I wonder, there's no data for it. I'd love to know how many barns were in on the shake. If you look at her last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 starts, she was claimed out of every single one of them. She'll probably be claimed out of this race as well. But the only time that she had a bad effort, it's kind of an off spot. It's kind of hard to figure out what happened in her big loss 2 back. But other than that, every race fits perfectly here. Are you concerned at all that she was always running for 12.5 and now we're stepping up to 20? Or is, because it's the non-championship meet still, is this still kind of a middle move?
To me, I'm not, because this is a lot of 12-5 type horses, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like even Mercury had the 5 horse. Your second pick was claimed out of a $16,000 claimer. Adios Babe was in a 12.5 2 back. Like, there isn't a horse that's like, oh man, that horse is really dropping down. You can look at the 2 horse coming out of an overnight stakes race. Yeah, well, last time we ran competitively, it was at 7,500 and 10,500 claimers. So it's not like we got a world beater field. You have anyone dropping from 40 to 20, anything like that. This is more of a 12.5 field running at the 20 level. And the argument around what happened 2 back, the pace happened 2 back. I mean, they went 21 flat for the opening quarter. They're not going 21 flat for the opening quarter here. And that to me is the big difference. And this is also at 5, not 5.5. So we even get an extra advantage with the speed here. You don't need the extra half furlong. So you put all that together. It's tough to try and beat Golden Isle in this spot in my mind.
The other one I almost used, if I had, was going to go too deep, I would have used the 6. She's getting a big jockey upgrade to Luis Saez, and 4 starts on the synthetic course here. She's got a second and 2/3, but she comes from way off the pace. There is nobody who's going to be pressing that one, and so that's why we both landed on her. Was there anyone else that you wanted to talk about? Are you ready to move on?
I mean, I was 165 in this spot, so I understand the love for the 5 there. It's just, to me, this is going to be all about the pace, and I don't think anyone goes with the 1, so it made it pretty easy.
Let's move on. As my dog wants my attention here. Third leg of the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, December 10th, race 8. It's the $75,000 Wait a While Stakes. 11 2-year-old fillies going. Why are we going 7.5 furlongs? It screws up all the DRF stats. I hate that. It's still 2 turns, just make it a mile. Anyways, plenty of options to go here. Where are you going on top?
Give me the 9, Juniper Marshmallow on top here. Irad Ortiz Jr., Todd Pletcher, St. Elias Stable. This horse I thought was really impressive. Winning debut at Keeneland, the second place finisher, comes back, breaks maiden right off that. This is one of those horses where, when you're looking at just a debut, rarely do you see a debut winner go through what this horse went through. Was sitting on the inside on the first turn, swung 6 wide into the stretch and mowed him down. Byron didn't come back wonderful, but that, like I said, the second place winner coming back and winning gives a little more credibility to the race. I like the placement here. I like the fact that we get Irad aboard. He is very good in these type of spots. I love the 8-1 price. I'll be interested to see if we get it, but I love that 8-1 price.
Yeah, I used her here. I went 4 deep and loved it. A lot of it, I watched the replay and looked at the chart for that Keeneland debut. By the way, debuting and winning at Keeneland in a turf route like that, and then coming to Gulfstream during the non-championship meet, might be a little bit of a class drop, even though these are winners and stakes horses, at least for the most part. I know Delight's in here, but she had a rough trip. You have to watch the replay to really see the kind of work that Irad had to have. But also on paper, this race looks a lot like how that one was. You had the top 3 hit a complete wall because there was too much pace. And then she was there. She was the best horse to pick up the pieces. Who else do you want besides Irad on a horse that needs a pet? Well, maybe Joel, but Irad's going to, for Pletcher, that's who you want to have aboard. I'm with you. I don't know if we get to 1, but if we can, sign me up. And by the way, Botanical broke the maiden next out by 11 lengths in a route. It was on synthetic, but by 11 lengths. That's not easy to do for any horse. So that was impressive. My top pick is going to be the number 3, Isabel Alexandra for Gustavo Delgado. Jose Ortiz is aboard. By far a big, sorry, no offense to Raul Gutierrez. He's a great up-and-coming jockey. He's not Jose Ortiz yet. Jose Ortiz is going to hop aboard. And like I said, there's a lot of speed. The 1, the 4, the 6, the 11. They might all try and go for that early pace. I fully expect Jose Ortiz to set her off a couple of lengths behind the pace. And when they hit that wall that I talked about in the Juniper Marshmallow, being able to pick up, this one will have the jump on Juniper Marshmallow unless Irad keeps her a lot closer. Another horse that had a less than ideal stretch trip at Keeneland, but still looks pretty good. A very heavy favorite, Heavenly Sunday, was 8-5 in a field of 12 horses. I thought Isabel Alexander was clearly the best horse in that race. In 4th place from that, came back to finish 2nd in an allowance route, got a 73 buyer. So facing horses that came back and did well.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on you here. Should also trip out. I mean, this is you've got the two that doesn't show much speed. You've got the one and the four who both have some pace. This three should get the rail on the first turn, right behind the leaders, and be able to just kind of pick when to hit the go button there, going around the second turn, saving ground the whole way. So I like the trip the three should get. I would expect an improvement. I love Raylu, but like you said, this is a jockey upgrade going over to Jose. So I think the 3 horse is definitely a player in here. My top pick was right to the outside. I went with a 4 Personal Pursuit on top. This is a horse that is just screaming 2 turns on turf. And because of kind of what happened through the progression of those first 3 races, just hasn't gotten it yet. Tried to get on turf in the second race at Backwood. Race gets rained off. Horse still wins. Not a shocker. This is a daughter of Tappet. It was a very good off-track sire. Sold for $500,000, by the way. And then comes back and runs in the Matron, the grade 3. Just throw that race out. I mean, got smashed at the break, never had a chance, and still decided to run late, which I think is definitely a good sign. I don't think the 4 needs the lead because I agree with you. There is quite a bit of pace in here, and we'll talk about Delight, who I'm not using. I don't know if you are,
nope.
But we'll talk about Delight and how Delight's trip is going to work out in this spot and why 5-2 on the 11 just doesn't make much sense here. I don't think Personal Pursuit needs the lead. I think this horse could decide to sit back and then make a big move, but we do know he has that early turn of foot if that's what Gaffalione wants to do aboard. So I like the versatility on the 4. I like the fact that this 4 should love 2 turns on the turf, and that's what I think we've been going for or waiting for the whole racing career here for this young 2-year-old. So I have the 4 on top here. I like the 9 quite a bit. Those are the 2 I was going to use. If you want to cut my ticket, which is a $90 ticket, down to $60, I would just go too deep in this race and play 4-9 and leave the 3 off. I left the 3 on because I'm taking some shots later in this card, and I don't want the 3 to be the reason. That's why I'm putting the $90 ticket out there. But that would be the cut for me if I decided to go 2 deep instead of 3 deep in this spot.
Yeah, Ortiz and Delgado 3 for 11 together at Gulfstream Park too in last year. I did use the 4 as well. I didn't initially think I would, but then I thought about it. I'm like, Gaffalione's going to be aboard. He's a very smart jockey. He's going to see the speed. I don't think this horse is going to lead early. I think she sits right there within range of the 3 horse. Mark Cassidy, brought her to Saratoga for the summer, trying to get her on the turf after she debuted at Churchill on the dirt. And she had a couple of minor issues, and they couldn't quite get her ready for the races, but always was meant for the turf. You can see with those last 2 starts. And she's out of a Kitten's Joy mare. She should love stretching out. It's just a matter of, will she be able to settle with it? And this is a little bit of an experiment, right? Maybe she isn't able to settle. We learned maybe she needs blinkers or something like that. But with the data we have, I really love her here. So we agreed 3, 4, 9 for our top picks here. Not in that order, but 3, 4, 9 we like. I went 4 deep. I also threw on the 7 Malimu, not just because I love saying Malimu. It's a fun name, but this is an English Channel daughter who was bred in Kentucky, was sold to overseas interest, and Joseph O'Brien was actually her trainer. She debuts facing 13 other horses. She's the 2-1 favorite. She sat way off early, and as soon as she got clear off the far turn and had a lane, she exploded. It was a really impressive turn of foot. I love the fact that she's not a forwardly placed Euro who's coming over here, because that would just be a disaster. I think I'd like her a little bit better if, no offense to Julien Leparoux, if we had an Ortiz brother or something like that. But Julien Leparoux hits at 24% with a $3 ROI for Jack Sisterson at Gulfstream Park. I do like that about her. And, she got off 2 local works on the turf course ever since she came to America. That 47-2, that first one, I think Sisterson was like, ooh, we've got a good one here. Now let's just sit back a little bit. And by the way, she's N1X eligible. She's made 1 career start. Like Juniper Marshmallow, she doesn't need to be here. They could easily find an N1X turf route somewhere. No, we're going to go right into a stakes race. So I like the fact that Joseph O'Brien was her trainer, that she won on debut, and now we're coming over to a capable trainer in Sisterson. But again, I understand if with Julien Leparoux or first time Euro facing North American horses, there's some reasons not to like her.
Good pick. This is my 4th horse. This is the one that I ended up leaving off. However, I'm utterly disappointed in you. Malimu with Leparoux, and you didn't make any joke about it.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
This is the only horse
and the dam is kangaroo.
Like you could have come better with that. You made a phenomenal video, and you leave Malimu with Leparoux out of the joke repertoire here. I'm a little disappointed, Magic.
I left it all on the table and blinkers off. I'm sorry.
I know you played that intro twice already.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's talk about the 11. You did talk about this. Delight. She, won the Jessamine at Keeneland. They got her the spot into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. For me, it's not only just the 5-2 price, but her 2 wins were her 2 good wins. She broke from an inside post and got to the lead or got to be up front. Her 2 losses routing, she broke from post 8 and 9. She got hung 3-4 wide in the first turn both times, and she wasn't able to get close enough to the early pace to contend. Look at this field, look at this setup, and tell me that's not exactly what happens to her again here.
Excellent handicap. Nail on the head, especially in the Jessamine. That was a paceless race. I mean, I had her on top in that race because it was so paceless, and she went right to the front and was able to get the job done with Saez. They went 24-1, 49-3, 114-3. They will go 2 seconds faster to 6 furlongs than they went in the Jessamine. Maybe Delight is good enough to win from off the pace, going 3 wide on both turns. I'm not willing to bet on it at 5-2. And it maybe shorter than 5-2 on race day as well, because this horse is going to take money with Saez aboard for Jonathan Thomas. The 8 becomes more interesting to me because Jonathan Thomas decided to put this horse in here with Delight in the race as well. So to me, I'd rather take the longer price Thomas horse than the shorter price Thomas horse, who is up against it from a trip perspective and is not going to get the setup that she got in the 2 wins.
And yeah, I remember when hearing you say it, Delight. We covered that card for the Magic Mike show, and I remember I didn't use Delight, and you did, and you came out on the winning end there. Let's move on, Mike. The penultimate leg of the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, December 10th. To this point, you and I have been pretty much in sync, and now we're just going to go completely off the rails with each other. Race 9 to me was the hardest one. If I could hit an all but 11 horse field, to be this one. Mile and a 16th synthetic route, 11 males 4 and up that have either started for a claiming tag of 12.5 or less, or they're currently in for a 20K tag. Plenty of places to go. Where are you going on top?
This is a dartboard race, my man. I mean, there are like 11 horses, and we both joked before the show we were trying to find a way to hit the all button somehow at this spot. I'm going to go to the track trends and say that you want to be coming from off the pace here, especially since we have 3 or 4 horses that want to come from up front. So I am just going to take a plethora of closers in this spot and hope that I pick the right closer to be able to get the job done. I put the 9 on top here, Racecraft. This is a horse you're getting. It's a Ryan Crichton barn. Irad's picking up the mount. I like Miguel Vasquez quite a bit. Still, Irad's going to be an upgrade here. Was a 260 favorite against 3 of the horses in here last time out. This is one that at 4, you're still waiting for that next jump up. And I think you could see that today. This is a horse that has improved a little bit throughout the career. Needs to take a slight step forward to get the job done, but I think the pace is going to set up wonderfully here. It should be rolling late. The question is how far back are we and what the pace up front is going to be. I think the pace is going to be quick enough to set up for Racecraft. If it does, I think Irad gets the trip job done, and I like that 8-1 pricing. I was surprised this horse was 8-1 after being such a short price against the horses that are favored in this race last time out.
I love this horse as well. You nailed all of the reasons to like. I think this race is potentially setting up for a huge pace meltdown. The 1, the 3, the 4, the 6. Saez on the 10. Maybe, the horse did try to go gate to wire last time out and it didn't work out. So there's a lot of speed in here. I agree with you on the 9. Where you want to go next?
I went with the 5 next. And this is the only horse that has some type of speed that I am using. And this is the tactical horse where if there is a pace up front, because I'm not using the 1, the 4, the 6, or the 10. If there is that pace up front, I want the first run horse. And to me, the 5, Momza is the first run horse. I also want to say, go back and watch the replay of Momza last time out, not the actual start, but see if you can get them loading into the gate. This horse is washed out. They mentioned in the DRF comments, the last race is a chuck out because of how the horse looked before the race. And so I'm just crossing a line out for that because of the looks of the horse. I'm hoping we're not washed out again, but we're handicapping here on a Thursday for a Saturday card. And guess what? This is the 4th race of the sequence. You won't know when you're pushing the button anyway. If we can get back to what we did a couple races prior, then I think this horse has a real legit shot. I like the fact we saw a nice improvement when we jumped over to the synthetic 3-back. And I like the fact that even after that last race, we're protecting this horse again in this spot versus going back to the claiming level where he'd won 2 straight races. Going from Figueroa to Jose Ortiz doesn't hurt either. So there's enough reasons here to get that upgrade. And this is the horse that I think makes the first run at this hopeful pace meltdown. And then we'll see whether or not Momza can get it to the wire.
So we agreed on 2 horses, and those are the first 2 you talked about. I like it. Yes, 2 of the Santiago Barnes, 3 wins. Joel Santiago is the trainer. They were in 2020. The 3 wins in 2022. 2 of them were with this exact horse over this exact setup, and you nailed it. We debut on synthetic. We go up the ladder. We win. We go up the ladder. we were washy, but we don't drop back down to claiming. We go right back in this spot. So you're throwing Jose Ortiz on when he doesn't ride for Santiago. Yeah, I like this horse a lot. I'm going to take the lead now. I'm going to say my next one. I am going to use the 10, Fly the W. I think that Saez is going to treat this horse a lot more like Ortiz treats the 5 instead of trying to gun for the lead. If you look at the horse's last 3 starts, or actually any of the synthetic starts, the best efforts were when we were tracking and then pounced when the early pace collapsed. Last time out, just ended up inheriting the lead, and you see they went 26, 49, and 2. It was a really slow dawdling pace, and just it wasn't a good position because the horse likes to chase. He doesn't like to be chased or to be pressured like that. That's at least, I haven't talked to him lately, but I'm assuming that's what he meant by that. But you also like the fact that Robert DeBona has started this meet extremely hot. 4 wins from 19 starts. He's 14 of 19 in the money right now. Saez is easily the best jockey that's getting aboard this horse, but you have an outside post draw, a horse that does like to be forwardly placed. And if you're worried he's going to get stuck 4 wide in that first turn, there is a reason to pass on him.
That's my main concern here is what trip we're going to work out for Fly the W, who probably wants to sit a length back of the speed. If you're a length back of the speed, you're going to have to use this horse out of the gate to be able to get there. And then it's the question of, can you get to the rail? I'm guessing the answer is no. You're probably sitting 2 to 3 wide, a length back, and you already used some of the horse. And then you've got a plethora of horses coming from off the pace that are not bad. I mean, they're decent horses coming from off the pace that all have races that point back to good enough to win it. Now, if we can somehow find a way to get the trip we did 2 back, breaking out of the 2 post, the 10 is dangerous, right? But I don't see that trip manifesting for the 10 in this spot. And that's, again, I think this is going to be your favorite. Probably lukewarm 2 to 5 or 5 to 2, 3 to 1, somewhere in that range. And I felt like there were better options from a price perspective to go after. And I feel like this is one of those ones that unfortunately is going to be too close with that post to be able to get the job done down the stretch.
Talk to me about the 3-horse Major Wager. I didn't use, but I was kind of curious. I like Anna Mia as a trainer a lot, but I didn't end up using because I couldn't quite figure out what this horse was going to do to be able to win. Make a case for it.
Yeah, I like that last race. We won at 19 to 1, but I'm happy we're getting 15 to 1 back on the morning line here. It's another horse that's shown tactical speed. It was close to the lead, going 5 or 5.5 a lot. The one time we've gone this mile, this 2-turn that's on the page at least, was last time at Indiana Grand, going a mile on the turf course. The horse showed a different dimension, was able to sit off the pace and able to close. This is exactly the type of trip that you're looking for. And if you're talking buyer perspectives, I mean, there's 85 and 82 and 80 and 82 on the page, all good enough to be competitive here. Now we're switching over to synthetic. Okay, well, guess what? Anna Mia, not bad. Switching over synthetic, 22% in 9 trips. So 2 for 9 with a $5.31 ROI. So gotten the job done with prices going from turf over to the synthetic. If we can keep our form from that last race at Indiana, this horse should be 4 to 1, not 15 to 1. And that's the main reason here why I'm playing it. Panici also knows how to get prices home over the synthetic. So I'm willing to take a chance here in a race where I'm going 5 deep. I'm going to use the horse right to the inside as well. The 2-horse Poppies Boys. This is the winner of that race that you have 4 horses coming into this race. One at 16 to 1, which obviously I don't love that now I'm getting 6 to 1 here. But man, that was impressive to close into that pace. You mentioned how slow they went. They went 26, 49, and 2. And then the race picked up to 112. It's a pretty good 6 for a long time over that synthetic. And the 2-horse Poppies Boys was able to take advantage of it off the layoff too. That was the first start in 4 months. Now we're coming back off that freshening, getting the second start where we have had success over this Gulfstream synthetic course. We've been in the money 4 of 6 races. Like I said, I don't love that price coming back, but I do like the fact that we've got a trainer who's been very successful here. Over 29% over the synthetic, 2 for 5 at the current meet, 40%, 26% for the year, only had 39 starters. This is one of those horses where I think the price was wrong last time, especially since we were a $1.70 favorite in the synthetic race prior to that at $20,000 claiming level, and that was a $20,000 optional claimer. I think the price was wrong, and that's why I'm willing to kind of say, okay, I'll take the 6 to 1 here, even after the 16 to 1 last time out.
Yeah, if you go, I was going to bring that up. If you go all the way back to the first time this horse got claimed for a tag, and even like a few months before that, there's only 3 times the horse was ever over or double digits for the betting, and then one of them was last time out. And you kind of look at even the last few races before that and go, I mean, he struggled on the synthetic, but he had that nice turf win at Gulfstream going 2 turns. And 16 to 1 seemed like everybody had just completely given up on him. And then you just throw old Elbows Leon on and knock the competition out of the way, even though you're on the wrong lead. You can get the job done. I am worried about the 2 I didn't use, but is a horse that definitely is at 6-1. I think is a fair value.
Yeah, it's the second lowest price I'm using in this race too, going 5 deep. So I'm definitely looking for a bomb here, trying to get out of this race with 1. The other horse I'm going to use is the 7, Mr. Machusek here. Look, this horse is 3 for 8 at Gulfstream over the synthetic course. Loves the synthetic course. Won last time out, first time out for Dion Morsili. There's races in the back that get the job done here. And for me, that is the big point. Also beat Timmy M, who's in this race. Just missed the Poppy's Boy back at the $20,000 level as well. There's enough here to do it. And again, we're getting second off a layoff in this spot later in the 5-year-old season. I would expect we should take a step forward off that last race. And if so, Mr. Machusek fits here again with these other horses, especially with the pace setup. This one needs pace up front to be able to win. And that's exactly what we're going to get. I want closers going 2 turns on the synthetic. We get the pace setup for it here. I'm willing to take stabs at horses who I don't think are the same level as some horses in this race, but have the exact setup I'm looking for here going 2 turns. I'll take 12-1 on the 7, Mr. Machusek as well.
Trainer Diane Marici did what Robert Moscow and William Theranos couldn't do, which was claim off of Peter Walder and get a win. Peter Walder had this horse, was looking pretty good on the synthetic, had it before, and then once it left the Walder barn, wasn't doing very well. Marici got it, and first off of a almost 4-month layoff there, goes up the ladder after being claimed for 10, goes back to the 20K level and gets the job done. Second off the layoff. Again, another horse that I think is got potential. And we said it at the start of this. You could hit the all button here. I'm not going to completely poo-poo any pick you want to make. Last one for me, and Michael Olsen, I'm so sorry because you and I we went 4 deep and we have the exact same 4 horses here. I'm so sorry, buddy. The number 8 Uncle Armando at 8-1. Class drop, I think, a little bit from Florida bred optional claimers. He ran a late running 3rd, pretty respectable. Now he's back down to an open starter allowance field. He beat over this course 2-back, reunites with Safi's top jockey, Edgar Zayas, who was aboard for that victory 2-back. We're 3rd off the layoff late in the 4-year-old season. I like that we're staying on the synthetic, even though the turf course is opening up. Safi, I'm sure, could have found a spot that fit and decided, no, this might end up being better on synthetic. And the last 2 buyers, 78 and 77, are better, either match or are better than anything this horse ever did previously in his career. And in those last 2 races, the pace was hot enough that it completely collapsed and he swept by late. I think it's going to set up that way. We're both feeling that way. And this is the best price he's been, at least morning line wise, since Safi took over training back in the summer. So I like him in here. I guess not why you hate him, because we don't love any of these horses. But what kept you from using the 8 horse?
If I went 6 deep, the 8 would have been the next on the ticket. It was between the 7 and the 8 for me as the last horse on, and the fact that I can point to past races for the 7 that are good enough to win, and the 8 would need to improve, is the reason why I ended up going with the 7 over the 8. Because, and to be honest, you can make an argument that the 8 will improve, right? I mean, that you could say that, hey, we've got, like you said, 3rd off the layoff, later in the 4-year-old season. All those reasons are good reasons that the 8 could take a step forward here. I would just rather take the bigger price who has the line on the paper I can point to versus the horse that's a shorter price. They're probably going to take some money in this spot, honestly, because it's a logical use here, who needs to improve to be able to win.
And Safi's back in Florida, so that's, hey, you can actually play him this time. Let's move on, Mike. The 5th and final leg of the late pick 5, Gulfstream Park, Saturday, December 10th, race 10. We're back on the turf once more. 10 males, 3 and up, traveling a mile and a 16th, in for $16,000 tags. Hell of a way to end the sequence with these last 2 races. Where are you going on top?
I'm going with the 20-1 shot on top here. Sassy but Smart, the 7 horse, is dead lone speed in this spot. There is no one else that's going to go. And rarely do you get a horse coming from 5 furlong synthetic races that's dead lone speed that you can actually say, oh, no. We've done this 2-turn thing on the turf before, and we're pretty good at it. We're good. That's the thing with this horse. I'm shocked it's 20-1. I don't think we're getting 20-1, but let's just be honest. I think it's like 6-1, 7-1, something like that. But you have literally back-to-back races over this Gulfstream Park turf course in 2021 where this horse made the lead in 2 of the 3, going 7.5 and a mile and 16th, and almost held on to win 2 of those races where there was pace pressure. Now we're going to come back here with no pace pressure off the claim too, which I love here. We got claim by Hess, and then we're stretching out to the turf. Clearly there was something. They agree that this is horse, maybe 2 turns on the turf where we want to be. I think this is a great spot for a 20-1 shot to take this field gate to wire to close out this pick 5.
I went 3 deep here, and I love this horse in this position too. Bob Hess, real smart guy, trying to pull the classic 7 synthetic sprints to a turf route move. We always see him do, and it works really well.
The sixth in a row, bad, but the 7th, that's when they really hit their turf form.
9 of his 12 turf buyers are better than all 7 of his synthetic buyers. I think the same thing that you did. And by the way, it's not so much the Connection's fault. They didn't have a turf course to run on all summer. I don't know why we kept sprinting him over and over and over and over and over and over without it really working. But
I can answer that. If you don't want to be on the lead going 2 turns on the synthetic and you have speed, what do?
You sprint, try and come off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up the fact, he broke his maiden protected over this turf course. The other turf win came routing while protected. So he does definitely have races that you can point to that work. My top pick, the number 9. Oh, no. Michael, did you do it again? Oh, we almost went perfect again in this last one. Number 9, Performing Arts is my top pick, 3-1. Comes from a really, really talented family. He's a half to multiple grade 1 winner, turf routing, Oscar Performance, multiple graded stakes win, turf router, Oscar nominated. Hasn't quite been of that caliber, but for this position, I think he's perfectly bred for it. Drops to the lowest tag of his life. Returns to the Robert DeBona barn. I already talked about that. DeBona is on fire right now. 4 wins, 14 in the money finishes from 19 starters. Luis Saez hops aboard. He's clicking at 20% for the DeBona barn. 3-1 price. I wish it was a little bit better, but I think this is just a perfectly spotted horse in this race.
I mean, I left this one off, and I'm like tapping my finger and wondering if I should pull someone off a different leg to put them back on. This is my 4th pick. I went 3 deep. I'm worried it's too short off the layoff, and that was my main reason for leaving the horse off. First off, we're not a fast horse. We'll just out of the gate, and this is a brace with no pace, breaking from the 9 post, first off the layoff, going shorter than I think the horse wants. And so there's quite a few negatives in my mind. But man, you look back at that $32,000 claiming race at Gulfstream Park, where he just mowed down the field. This is a 16. It's one of those where I feel like I may regret leaving this one off. But this was like we talked about how much pace there was last race and how pace really defined that handicap. For me, pace defined this handicap as well. And I felt like the 9 was going to be too far off it, going a distance that's too short for him to be able to come from out of it. So that's why I ended up putting the 9 in 4th here. I may fiddle with the ticket a little bit here in the background. My second pick after the 7 was the 2 horse, the North Remembers. This is a horse who's stepping up from that $16,000 or $10,000 claiming level, but I think that the turf actually is a good move here. 2 for 6 on the turf at this distance, 3 for 12 over this Gulfstream Park turf course. And I think out of that 2 post is going to show some tactical speed. And that's really what I was looking for here. I think you're going to see the North Remember sitting in 3rd or 4th around that first turn. And that's where I kind of want my horse to be, not 8th or 9th, where I expect the 9 to be. Has the numbers to be able to get the job done. I mentioned likes this turf course. Don't love the 2, but because of the setup, I think the 2 is a horse you have to use here.
I think was the last one off of my ticket from this race was the 2. It seems like it fits. At 10K to 16K to me at this level, I don't think is a difference. We talked about Fly the W from the last race, and the big reason you didn't like him was the post position, among other things. But it was facing decent horses for the level. It fits. Got 3 wins on the turf, so not just a synthetic specialist at all. I didn't use, but I can see why I would use it. My last one, I'm going to go to the number 10 all the way outside, Kitten Spa. Irad Ortiz jumping aboard. It's a weird thing to say, but ignore every result he's had since Walensky claimed him. Ignore all of those. I think it works out. Gulfstream Park, we talked about, they shut down the turf course. So Walensky moved a string, including this horse, to California, where you would think, oh, Del Mar, they're going to have all sorts of turf racing. And what happens? He gets rained off in one of those races at Del Mar. But I will say the Del Mar 25K, the Santa Anita even 25K claiming ranks greatly outclasses a non-championship meet 16K claiming race at Gulfstream Park. Best finish to date with the barn was that mile race at Santa Anita Park. 2 back, so we finally got on the turf in a decent position and seemed to run okay. There were 9 horses there, so kind of split the difference. But if you know, Walensky claimed this horse way back in January, ran him back in the same spot, lost him right away, and then the first chance he got when he was back in for a tag, claimed him back, and has never been back down to this level since then. We're back down to this level. God, you got to hope that Irad can help him overcome that 0 for 5, and I don't mean wins. I mean 0 for 5 showing up on the Gulfstream Park turf.
Yeah, I just never hit the board over this turf course. Everyone was trying to run him over synthetic instead of turf, and that to me is the big concern here. That this is a more of a synthetic course, like look, Walensky is 7% as a trainer, right? We're not exactly a world beater here either. So there may be some placement issues with this horse as well. I agree, this is the lowest level we've been at, and you love the fact that IRAD picks up the mount, but you hate the post, and you hate the fact that we're going to have to come from off the pace in the paceless race. I mean, to me, again, it's the 9 and the 10 in a vacuum, maybe the two most talented horses in the race, but they're definitely facing. They're up against it because of the pace in the post, and so that's why I ended up leaving the 10 off in this spot. But I'm not going to talk anyone off the 9 or the 10. I would just wave the caution flag there if we're talking about it. I'm going to go to the 1 horse, Officer County. I'm kind of surprised you did not use this horse, Magic, because it's a lot of the same reasons I use the 7 that I'm going to use the 1 here in this spot. We're getting back to the turf. Well, I guess you can get the 0 for 4 of the distance, 0 for 7 of the Gulfstream turf. So I guess that's not completely fair. But the turf races I felt were as good as or better than the synthetic races that you saw out of this horse. And now we're getting back to the turf course here. If we can improve off those last 2 synthetics, even just a tick up, which we had better turf races prior to that, the 1 horse fits here, and I'm going to go back to the pace. This is the only other horse in the race that shows any pace. If the 7 clears, the 1 sits right behind it, and the 7 sucks, guess who makes the lead? The 1 horse. And so, to me, this is, again, this is oddly a pace handicapping show basically now in the last 2 races, but there are clear advantages in the pace and there are clear disadvantages. And when you have an advantage with the 1 post and tactical speed versus disadvantages on the outside, and you're getting a bigger price, I'm going to lean toward taking the horse that I think has the tactical edge there. Now, I don't love the turf numbers or the Gulfstream Park turf numbers. That definitely is an issue there. But again, if you go back to the turf races, they're statistically higher, both time form and buyer wise, than the synthetic races this horse ran. So there's some ability there. And today we get the setup where if we can't get it done today, then it's probably never, and we shouldn't be running this horse much anymore. But I'm going to go with the tactical advantage on the pace side for the 1, the 2, and the 7 here. And hopefully we can get around the 9 and the 10, who maybe better horses just are kind of up against it.
1's not a terrible. I think this is a good position, and you brought up those turf numbers, but they can be really skewed because this horse was mostly a turf horse until late last fall, and then they were like, "Oh, let's try this new synthetic thing at Gulfstream Park," and then we can dab a little bit in the turf course after that. And when we came back to the turf at age 5, you've got 3 thirds, all very competitive thirds, and then a 4th where we missed second by about a length and a half. So those races fit. They were all at this level. You think now we've got the rail draw here. Villalobos was aboard for the first time last out, almost got a win. You would think that he apparently fits the horse pretty well. So I don't know anything about Villalobos, but or trainer Monica McGoey. She's probably Irish, I can guess that. But otherwise, yeah, I don't hate this spot. Using it, I think this horse definitely showed improvement at age 5. And when you're looking, just kind of a general handicapping lesson, when you see that the horse is 0 for 7 at the Gulfstream Park turf and only 2 wins from 15 starts on turf, figure out when did it happen. Is there a pattern? This horse at age 5, for the level, took a step forward and is a better horse than he had been by far at age 4, 3, or 2 when they were running him.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Switched Barns has not run on the turf for this barn yet either. So it'll be interesting to see how this barn handles the turf course. All the previous efforts were before the claim. So we'll see what happens there. This is also the first time we're back at the $16,000 claiming level. Every other race has been run above it. So there are arguments to make as to why there's been this losing streak, and we'll see if we can flip it around on Saturday.
Well, even the last 2 races, there was a 20K where you could have taken a conditional 16K tag to get a weight break. So, if they really wanted to risk this horse for a 16K before, they had chances in 3 of the last 4 starts there and didn't do it. So all good signs. Again, these last 2 races, if you've got opinions that are different of ours, go for it. These ones are, especially that penultimate leg, man. Like you said, Mike, perfectly, dartboard race.
Yeah. Yeah, don't leave the 7 off in the last. That horse,
don't do that.
20-1 and is clear lone speed. So if I won't talk you off anyone, I would try to talk you onto that 7.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining Mike and I to welcome back Gulfstream Park's turf racing, the Late Pick 5 Saturday, December 10th. We're going to go ahead and give out our tickets one last time for the podcast listeners. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for joining us. Take a look down below. Mike, I will start. I'm going to go 4-9, then single to 1, then 3-4-7-9, 5-8-9-10, 7, 9, 10. That is a $48 ticket.
All right, I'm going to give a couple of versions of mine in case you want to cut it down. Don't usually give out a $90 ticket, but here we are today. So I'm going to go with 2, 4, 7, 8, with 1, with 3, 4, 9, with 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, with 1, 2, 7 for $90. If you want to cut it to 60, I would take the 3 out of the third leg. And if you want to cut it down to, I don't know what it would be. Anyway, the 4 in the first leg would be the other horse I would consider cutting. If you wanted to keep that 3 in, I would cut the 4 in the first leg to cheapen it up to.
Sorry, I was muted. I want to go back to that last race real quick. Rob had a comment come in right as we left it there. The 3 brings up, he's only run on turf 4 times. And if you want to use the same argument that I did for your 1, that the last time this horse tried turf was early in the 3-year-old year, or now we're late in the 5-year-old year. You also have a trainer, Laura Cazares, who claimed this horse and brings it back to turf for the first time in 2.5 years. So there are some angles there that maybe that wakes the horse back up. Kozan, pretty good turf sire, pretty good sire overall in Florida. But yeah, so Rob, that was a good point. I wanted to make sure I highlighted that.
Laura 1 for 16 on the year, but 29% first off the claim, 2 for 7.
And she is she is 8 for 16 in the money. So she has 3 seconds and 4/3 so far at this meet. So the horses are running. They just need a little bit better running luck. Damn it. I'm about to talk myself. Don't do it, Magic. Don't. Rob, if the 3 wins on Monday, remind me. I'll sing your praises here about it. That's going to do it for us, though. We're going to get out of here. Kind of a light weekend racing-wise. The last couple, I'll get to it. Don't worry. Next couple of weekends racing-wise. We have the Starlet Stakes this weekend. That's the main feature. And then the Los Al Futurity will be next weekend. Pretty light, but then after that, it's Christmas, and then it's Malibu Day. And then, oh boy, hold on to your butts, because here we go. But we're not there yet. It is still football season. Mike, what do you want to talk about tonight?
Thursday Night Football, baby. It's a battle of LA, right? The Raiders and the Rams, the 2 favorite teams in LA.
Yes. Yeah, that is actually true.
Raiders headed into Los Angeles tonight, currently laying 7 most places, total sitting at 43.5. I don't want to lay 7 with the Raiders, but that offense should be absolutely humming. They're averaging 7 yards per play, 7 yards every offensive snap for the past 3 weeks. I think they're going to have a ton of success on the ground and through the air. Rams defense is not great, especially in the last couple games. However, they played their Super Bowl last weekend, which I think is important to note. Bobby Wagner got that team up for that Rams-Seattle game. He had come from Seattle to try and win a Super Bowl with the Rams. That's obviously gone sideways as they now have Baker Mayfield on their team. But this is a spot where I think the Rams defense is they're in it. I expect that the Raiders are going to be able to put up points left and right. The team total is sitting at 24.5. I like that team total over more than any other bet tonight. I would lean toward the Raiders. I would lean toward the over. I expect the Raiders to score points. So I'm going to take the team total over 24.5. Devontae Adams, if you can get him over 85.5 yards, I think he's going to have a pretty darn good game tonight as well. Jalen Ramsey probably not going to follow him all over the field, so they're going to be able to get matchups against the Rams' second and third cornerbacks who are not very good. Rams also can't rush the passer now that Aaron Donald's out. If you can't rush the passer, Derek Carr usually has a pretty good day. So I think everything points toward the Raiders having a solid offensive day. Problem for the Raiders is their defense sucks. And that means that the Rams might score some points here and not cover that 7 points. So give me the Raiders team total over 24.5 tonight. I think if you want to play the Raiders first half, I would feel a little better about that. And if at any point Baker Mayfield becomes the starting quarterback, live bet the Raiders right at that point, because there is no way that he knows very much of this playbook. So they're going to have to be completely vanilla. And the toughest thing, if he plays, how does he audible? What's he going to audible to? He doesn't know how to audible.
That's a great point.
In 2 days. So that means you only have your play call. They can never get out of what they called. That is an awful spot to be in the NFL. One of the biggest benefits is quarterbacks that can switch to positive calls. He will not be able to do that because he doesn't know how to audible in the Rams system. So if Baker comes in, I'm playing Raiders in game. I like the Raiders team total over.
So the last 2 times that we've talked about football, and I've given out a player prop, it's cash. So see if I can go 3 for 3. And it's going to build off of what you were talking about with your analysis there, that if the Rams don't rush the passer very well, Derek Carr is going to have a great time. You think the Raiders are going to score a lot. It sounds like the Rams, we're going to be playing from behind, especially if they're almost 7-point underdogs right now. And if Baker Mayfield comes in, good effing luck. Cam Akers, the running back for the Rams, right now it's 46 yards for the rushing total for him. The last 2 games, he's had 61 and 60 yards, or 2 of his last 3, I should say. But the problem with that is that we just saw a couple wide receivers for the Rams suddenly start to get some catches. And you can see that Sean McVay hasn't completely given up on the team, right? He's still trying. He's trying to figure out what can work. So giving the wide receivers a little bit more, trying to expand the offense. Kyron Williams, is another running back that could take some touches away from Akers. But really, if they're playing from behind early and they don't have a very, solid defense going on, you're not going to get a lot of rushing yards. So my bet, I would say take the prop, Cam Akers under 46 rushing yards for the game. What say you?
I agree. Your biggest concern is the first half, because as long as the Raiders get up, that's going to change the second half game plan. They're going to stick with the run in the first half. However, the Raiders have been much better against the run the last 3 games. They got trounced in Indianapolis with the run, but Indy's offensive line and running backs are significantly better than what you have with the Rams. This Raiders defense actually been playing a little bit better the last couple weeks. I'd like the under on Akers as well there. Sacks in the game, the total is 4.5. Kind of like
for everybody,
for both teams. I kind of like the over. I like the Raiders have rushed the passer very well the last few games. Max Crosby's started to get it going, and that offensive line for the Rams is no bueno. So if you're sitting there at the 4.5 level, I wouldn't be shocked if you see 4 sacks for the Rams or for the Raiders and 1 for the Rams to get you to that 5 total. So I'm a little interested in the over 4.5 sacks prop as well.
Rob, I'll put this up here in case it cashes. We'll give you some more credit. Van Jefferson over 36.5 receiving yards. That's his prop. That's the time for us for today. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Curtis Kalleward. He is at Somobomb 18, number 1, number 8, corporate overlords at racing_dudes. And remember, Blinkers Off was just live. And we just finished up an hour ago. So download that. Go check out the replay on YouTube is really my recommendation. You want to see the intro video for the Racing Dudes Triple Crown Fantasy League. The draft is next Thursday night. Mike and I got a lot of work to do, so we're going to get out of here. Until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
See if I hit the right button this time. Good luck, everybody.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.